Hi all, this video is about full summary of my beekeeping for this year. I've lifted the lid off for the first time after the winter, and as you can see there's an empty pack of fondant that bees have fully eaten up. So I've removed that up, and that'll be the first time I'll be opening the hive. And that's for the first time in April I've seen this much growth. You can see that bees have utilised all the empty space and drawn so much wax in there. So for currently what I'll do is I'll remove that wax and put the crown board upside down, and what that will make them do is take the honey out of that wax and bring it down within the frames. I had to be careful when I was doing that so I don't kill any bees. So lifting the frames up, I can see there's lots of honey stored in there. After the inspection, I added the dummy board on the side because there was a little bit of space. I added a queen excluder on top, and it was time that I add a super on top of the hive because the brood box was completely full with bees and they needed a bit more space, and it was a time when they could start storing some honey on top as well. Here what I'm doing is I've brought a new hive there which is newly painted, so give a longer lasting life to the hives. And what I'll do is I'll move all the frames from the other hive into this one and take that one home so I can repaint it. So I'll carefully remove all the frames, try to find the queen and shift all the frames from that hive into the new one. Hi all, welcome to today's vlog. What we'll be doing today is we'll be checking the super. Last week when I came the super looked quite full, so I've got a spare one here with me today. So if this one's quite full, we'll give the hive another super to work on. Another problem that I had with this hive was last week when I was going through, I couldn't find the queen in there. So what I did was I got a frame from another hive which had freshly laid eggs, which I'll put a picture up on the screen, and gave that to the hive so they can draw new queen cells. So today we'll go through the hive again, have a look if the queen's there or not, and if the queen's not there, if they've managed to draw any more queen cells. If they haven't, we'll try again. We'll find another frame from another hive and give it to them and see if they manage to draw it again. So let's get started. It doesn't feel very full at the moment, so we won't give them another super at the moment, but what I'm going to do is have a quick look through in case the queen's up here instead of the brood box. I won't go through the full super, signs for any brood being laid in there. Nope, there's absolutely no signs of any eggs being laid in here. And the super looks quite full. I think we can give them another super. Well, actually there's a few frames which are not being grown. Same here again. Well, let's see, let's go through the hive and let's decide. Let's give them a little bit slow. Let's calm these down a little bit. Smoke on the side. There's some honey in there. No laid eggs. Again, there's honey in there. There's a few cat brood in here, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a queen in there. Because these could have been laid a couple of weeks ago. Scan through it quickly.
Get this cap brood. I'm a bit confused actually. I can see some of the laid eggs. Let's see if we can spot the queen in here. Loads of brood cells. Everything that you see which is capped over here is basically brood been capped, and they should hatch in the next few days. Still haven't spotted the queen. It's getting a bit confusing now. So now coming onto the frame that we gave them last week from another hive to see if they did try making any queen cells in there. No, not really. Seems like they've just capped them. Yeah, no queen cells in there. I'm guessing the queen's in here somewhere then, because I could see some of the newly laid eggs today. Then in that case what we'll do is we'll give them another week, and when we come back next week we'll have a look if we can still find any more newly laid eggs. So don't seem too worried about this one, because I think they're doing okay. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, she's definitely in there. I mean, I haven't seen her yet, but I can see newly laid eggs. So I'm quite okay with that now. But let's see why we can't see the queen anywhere. Let's try to find her this week. It's fully laid out as well, which is very nice. So you can see the colony thriving really well, quite well. This queen has been marked. It was marked last year, so she should be able to spot, easy to spot, but no idea where she is. Again, lots of newly laid brood. Even though we didn't find her, but I'm okay actually. I'm quite confident that she's in there somewhere doing her job, so I'm not going to bother them so much. But it would be actually quite nice if I can see her. Let's look at the last frame. Nope, no idea where she is. Given that I can see quite a lot of newly brood being laid in there, so I think I'm okay with that. Let's just pick a random one again just to see if we can find her by any chance. No. Yeah, no idea. We'll let them work and not bother them so much. Given how much brood there is in the hive, what I've decided is I'm going to add another super on top of that. Because eventually that brood will come out and quality might be short of space. What we'll do is we'll put the super on top. Or actually, we'll move the super here. Add a brand new one on top of that, and we'll put the older one above that. And we'll let them work and make us honey this year.
Here at this frame I did find one queen cell which was fully charged, so I'll show you a close-up look. As you can see, it's a quite big fat cell sticking out from the frame, and if you pause the video and see inside the frame, you can see some white substance, which means there's an egg in it and the bees have been feeding royal jelly to it. So what I did was I went through the other frames and I did find a few more queen cells in there. So I knocked them out and left the healthy one out. At this stage I couldn't see any queen in there, so I brought following day I brought my friend of mine who could also help me and help me see if the queen's there or she's already left, which I believe is not the case, because if the queen cell has not been fully capped, that means the queen is still in there and it's still not too late. And we'll be going through the frames again just to make sure we find the queen, because if we can't find the queen, the process of splitting the beehives can't be done. As you can see on the right hand side where the smoker is, that's a brand new brood box with brand new frames in there. So I'll explain you what we do when we find the queen. Luckily I did manage to find the queen, and we put her in the cage and we just kept the cage right on top of the new frames that we've got. And the day before I made sure there was no extra queen cells in there, and we've left one healthy queen cell in there. Now what we'll do is move the box with the queen cells inside, or one queen cell inside, to a new location, and bring the new box in the old location with the old queen inside. What this will do is any bees that were flying bees, they will return back to the same location, but they will find a new hive in there with a new comb but same queen, which will make them think that they've already swarmed, and the reason they had built the queen cells, that's been completed. So any bees from the older box as well, which are flying bees, which would have swarmed off with the old queen, they will fly out from the box that you've seen that I've moved it on the other location. They'll fly out from there, but then they will return back to their original place. This way, what will happen is the bees will actually swarm to the newer box because there's a new foundation there, but their queen is there. Whereas with the older box, what the nursing bees, they will make sure they'll stick there because there's loads of brood in there which has not been hatched, and which will be hatched in next coming days. And also they will be making sure the queen cell that's in there is fully capped, and they'll be waiting for the new queen to arrive. What we're doing on the new box is we release the queen very gently in frames. Another thing we realized that we should do is, what we'll do is move the queen excluder at the bottom of the hive, because what could happen is the queen could swarm off again from this location, because as there's no drawn wax in there, or there's no brood in there, so there's no reason that she needs to stick to this place. So for her to stop doing that, we'll put a queen excluder at the bottom so she stays inside, and eventually once the bees have built 1 or 2 frames and queen can lay, she'll stay there and she wouldn't leave. So from now, what I'll do is the 2 hives, the newer hive and the older hive, I'll leave them alone for another 3 weeks so that they can build up. As you can see, there's loads of flying bees around that new hive. This is exactly what happens when they swarm to a new location. So for their point of view, they've swarmed off and that's their new location. That's why you see that crazy movement on the entrance of the hive. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Hi all, welcome to today's vlog. Today we'll be inspecting this hive, where we are expecting that the new queen would have hatched out and be mated by this time. So we'll assess how well she's laying in this colony. So we started off with opening the roof, removing the crown board. The bees have been really busy, and what they've done is with propolis stuck the supers really strongly, so it took me took an effort for me to remove them. The first super that I removed was the oldest one, which was really heavy and almost full. The second one seemed like half full, and there was still quite a bit that needed to be done in that one. I'm smoking the bees at this time so they feel a bit distracted and leave me alone and make the inspection a bit easier. I'm just cleaning the wax that's been drawn above the queen excluder. It's a good way of removing it, because then they will stop drawing more wax over it and just focus on the areas where they should be drawing more wax. Removing the queen excluder, and I'm making sure the queen's not on the other side of the queen excluder before I put that on the side. So just having a quick look, she wasn't on there, so I'll go through the hive and try to find her, see if she has successfully mated and returned back to the hive. I've removed the dummy board that was in the hive, so it gives me more space to move the frames around. first frame from the end looked pretty much empty. There's a little bit of honey stores on there, which is normal as expected. So I'll leave that on the side as well, so that gives me a bit more space to work. Lifting up the second frame from the end, I can see there's loads of capped brood in there. That's a good sign. That shows the queen has mated successfully and come back to the hive. The concerning point here is that the queen starts laying from the middle of the hive and the sheet goes outwards. It's the capped brood in the second last frame of the hive. That means she's laying at a really fast pace. If the space continues to be like this, they will plan to swarm out again, as the queen will be running out of laying space. So as we picked up the second frame, we decided that we will go with the double brood, which means I will give them 2 boxes of a brood box to the queen, so she have enough laying space in there. So we have a brood box ready on the side, and what I'll do is, as I keep lifting the frames up looking for the queen, I'll replace that with a new frame and move that frame on the other brood box. I beautifully brood laid all over the frame. Lifting another frame, and that's been fully laid out and capped. That means the queen is performing really well within the short time space that she's come back and completely laid out the brood box, which is a very good sign that the queen's a really good queen. And this frame as well, just made sure if I could spot the queen, which I couldn't, so I'm putting the frame back in there. Just doing a last checker before I put the frame back in, but I couldn't find the queen in there. Another frame full of brood, completely capped, with very few cells not capped, and I could see the brood being laid in there as well. Loads of bees working on those cells. And I'll move that frame to the second brood box that will go on the top and replace that with a new frame. Another frame full of brood, completely capped, and some uncapped brood. Trying to find the queen in there. Couldn't see her on this frame, on this side of the frame. Again, on the other side, there's loads of brood, but again, there's no sign of queen in there. Now we are right in the middle, where normally there's a lot more brood in comparison to the frames towards the ends. But this queen seems to be really good, as she's laid out all the brood frames equally from the center till the end. Couldn't see the queen on that frame, so I'll put that on the side and replace that with a new frame. Again, very similar looking frame, full of brood. The middle bit that you see, which is capped, that's normally brood that will be coming out in next few days, whereas the uncapped brood will take a few days. The bees will cap it, and eventually after about 7 to 8 days that will come out as well, hatch and come out. I'm just checking the frames twice now because it's coming towards the end of the hive and I haven't seen the queen yet. So I'll put the frame back and lift up the next one. Another frame with loads of brood in there. You see, as this frame has less capped brood in there, but on the other cells which were not capped had all been laid out. So I'll move that frame to the other brood box that will go on the top and replace that with a new one. As I'm approaching to the most front frames of the hive, normally these are quite empty. So this frame was normally filled up with loads of pollen in there, very few signs of brood in there. And coming to the last frame of the hive, pretty much similar to the frame before this. There's a little bit of honey stores on the top and some brood in there, but there's very little in there as expected because that's the most front frame of the hive, which is usually not very busy. But I couldn't see the queen on that one either. At this stage, I'm not worried at all because I can see the queen's been laying out crazily in all the frames, so I'm not concerned she's not there, but I'm quite happy that queen hatched out, mated, and have returned back to the hive. The checkerboard sequence that you see that I've done with the frames, that's not necessary to do, as nowadays a lot of people just put the new brood box underneath the older one. I've just been doing it because I've learned it this way, the old school way. But doing the other way, just by simply putting the new brood box underneath, is absolutely fine. So I'm just putting the frames which were on the side back in the hive. And that's the brood box that was on the side that will go on top of the original brood box. Just smoking the bees a little bit so they move away, so we don't squish any more bees when you put the second box on top of that. So we're gently sliding that over it. There goes the queen excluder. So queen now has about 22 to 24 frames to lay on. That will give them plenty of space. And then the supers goes on top of that, and that's how the colony looks. Here's this queen from my another hive which I marked. So you can see we marked it in pink color, and there she goes in the hive. And that's another queen from my third hive, which hatched at the same time as the first queen that you saw. So I'm using a plunger tool to make sure I mark that correctly. As you can see, that's a quite good size of a queen, healthy queen. So I've put the mark on there, and I'll leave her in there for about a couple of minutes before the paint dries out, and I'll let her in the hive again. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Make sure you subscribe, like and share. Thank you. So I've reached my hive now. It's a pretty hot day, but I'm still wearing a fleece and thick bottoms because at this point of time the bees are quite aggressive and I don't want any bees to sting me, so I'm just wearing some extra protective gear. My bee suit is generally quite good, but I'm just making sure that I don't get stung today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the supers from the hives. Before I lift them and take them away in the car, I'm just making sure that there's no bees in there. There's a couple of bees here and there which I just removed them by either brushing them or blowing a little bit of air on them. So that was quite an easy task to do, didn't take too long either. I'm lifting one super at a time because it's quite heavy at this point of time when there's honey in it. Each super is about between 7 to 10 kilos. So it is actually very heavy to carry it all the way from the hive to the car. Move them into my car, and I'll do that on this hive and the hive right next to it. So now we are in the kitchen, and this is how a frame looks like when bees have stored honey in the frame. We're going to carefully remove the capping, which is the top layer of the wax, so we can extract the honey out. I'm being very careful at this stage because I'll be using the same frames next year for the honey as well, so I want to destroy as less wax as possible so the bees don't have to work hard next year again. I'm repeating the same process on this frame as well, but as you can see, the honey in this frame is much darker than the previous frame, and that is possibly because when they were storing the honey in this frame, they went to a different source, and honey from different flowers can have different taste and different color depending on what flower it is. After the frame's been uncapped, they go into the spinner, and you spin the spinner at a high speed so that all the honey will stick to the walls and then just drag all the way down at the bottom of the extractor. Once there was enough honey at the bottom of the extractor, I started filling out the buckets. I've just put a sieve there so you can catch any small bits of wax that's come through the frames in the extractor.